Hey everybody, welcome back. Let's talk in this video about the U view, and let's also get into email because that's what we're talking about this week for your assignment. So what the heck is the U view? Okay, let's go back to basics here. Communication when you're at work or really any place where you're going to be using writing or speaking. A well-written document, well, obviously we want it to achieve its goal. So if we're sending an email asking someone to do something, it needs to be effective and have them actually do what we're asking to do. Well-written documents are careful. We don't want to say something that's offensive or misleading or incorrect. We want our documents to be caring. We want, let's be courteous, let's be kind, let's not be jerks in our communication. And let's be clear. Clear is maybe one of the most important because if you don't have the receiver understand your message, what's the point of even writing the message in the first place? And then lastly, don't create ill feelings. Don't make someone feel that they're not important, that someone is being attacked or something like that. So the thing to do is be professional. Professional means sometimes being courteous and compassionate. Now, what's an internal message? That's a message within the company, right? You're going to speak a lot differently in email inside the company versus outside with clients or things like that. So, but a well-written internal message, like an email memo, will actually really improve your image within the company or the organization, right? If you're writing poorly, it's going to decrease your reputation and image. And why does that matter? It's because the people who can write well, literally, if your emails are better than your peers, you're probably more likely to get a promotion because you're seen as more competent, right? People who write well and speak clearly and communicate well are noticed. And people that are noticed usually get rewarded. So there you go. Remember that game we used to play when we were kids at a birthday party or something? All the kids sit in a circle and the first person says something to the next person. And they whisper in the ear, right? It could be, cats are the greatest thing on this planet. And then each person whispers then the message to the next person, the next person, the next person. And then you get to the end and the last person is asked to say what was the message. And it comes out totally different, totally garbled, right? And everyone laughs. I think the game is called Broken Telephone. Why does that happen? Because the more steps you add in a communication, the more the message breaks down. It gets distorted, right? So here's a slight example. Now, these are not exact stats. It's just an approximation. So let's say that a client comes into your office and gives you instructions of what they want. Okay, I want my product to look like this. I want my brand to look like this. They give you 100% of what they're trying to say in theory, right? But the vice president who was in that meeting, he only got about 63%, right? Then he goes and talks to the general supervisor, and she's only got about 56% of the message now because some of it was lost in the transmission. Then it goes to the manager who's only got 40, and you see how by the time it gets to the frontline staff, they've really only got about 20% of the instructions that were communicated by the client, which is why often it takes so much back and forth with the client to get them what they want because there is this communication breakdown, this message distortion. We want to avoid that, obviously. So again, what is good communication in business? It's purposeful. You have to have a purpose, right? You don't want to just send a message because you're feeling chatty today. You should not do that. Good communication solves a problem or conveys information. It's economical. It uses the fewest words possible to get things across because people get way too much email and they're skimming. They're not reading every single thing, and you'll be appreciated if you can get your message across quickly and effectively. And lastly, good communication is reader-oriented, right? And this is the one we're going to talk about today. Reader-oriented communication focuses on the person receiving the message, the person you're sending it to, not you, right? You're the sender in this case. So what we're talking about here is really taking the U view. The U view means you focus on the other person, which is the receiver of your message. And it should always be focused on the other person because, hey, everyone is the center of their own universe, for good or for ill. That's the way it usually is. And people want to know what's in it for me. What's the benefits to the reader? Okay, example time. Here's a sender-focused message. Because we need more space for our new inventory, we're staging a 2-for-1 sale. Imagine you said that to your customers. I mean, they don't care if you need more space and you're running out of storage space. What's in it for them? The 2-for-1 sale? Okay, I'm going to help you out by buying 2 of your products instead of 1. I don't think so. But if you flip this around, we take the U view. We literally start with a U. You can buy a year's supply of paper and pay for only 6 months worth during our 2-for-1 sale. Isn't that great? That's way better. Next one, sender focused, which was what we don't want to do. We are requiring all staffers to complete these forms in compliance with company policy. If you got an email like that, would you be very motivated to finish those forms? Probably not. We require, ooh, okay, all staffers. Being called a staffer is generally dehumanizing and people don't like that very much. So not a great message here, very sender focused. But if we flip this around, please complete these forms. Oh, courtesy, isn't that wonderful? So that you will be eligible for health and dental benefits. Who doesn't want health and dental benefits? That's amazing. Of course you're going to fill out these forms. Same exact task that they're asking you to do, but because they've put themselves in your shoes, why do you want to do this? Why is this information important to you? Now you're going to be more likely to do it. Isn't that a valuable skill to have in life? Last one, sender focus. We are issuing a refund. Okay, you're probably happy to get the refund, but it's very sender focused. You can fix that by saying you will receive a refund. Very slight change, but the meaning is totally different. I want you to use the U view in all of your assignments in this course. This is one of the most important things. You're going to see it in every assignment. I'm looking for the U view. But look, you're at college not just to learn how to write for college. You're in college to learn skills that will apply to the real world. And in the real world, when you write something that's for the receiver, you're going to have a much better reaction. Great information. So here's another few rules to be calm in the face of adversity. Okay, this is the Triforce. Never doubt the power of employee goodwill morale. So if you're sending messages that are top down, very sender focused, it's going to upset people. We're going to start thinking the boss is kind of a jerk, right? It happens in so many companies because the boss is focused on him or herself. They're not taking time to think about the employee and put themselves in their shoes, right? So morale and goodwill is so important. And how do you create that? Take the U view. Put yourself in the other person's shoes. And by the way, the same thing goes for clients. Never doubt the power of a client who's satisfied. If you have a satisfied client, they're telling their friends. And referral traffic is the best way to get your sales up. So here's the reality about the world. You may work with clients, bosses, the public, and they might be harsh with you. They might be cruel with you. Clients are sometimes challenging. Your fellow employees or the ones you employ might be lazy. But your job is to be composed, right? So that means maybe compromising with the person you're talking to. It means really making an effort to understand and for you to be at peace, right? If you get upset or angry, you pretty much have already lost in any interaction. So be these 3 things, okay? So what are other things to avoid? Negative words should be avoided. You overlooked. That's negative, right? What people see when they read this is that you overlooked to take out the trash means you're careless, you're forgetful, you're lazy, right? Not good. People pick up on this, despite your using the more flowery, kinder language. You say you failed to, the translation is again, you're careless. You state that, there's always a but coming, right? But I don't believe you is the implication. You claim that, same thing. You claim that you took the money to the bank, but where is it? It's not true. Okay, so those are some instructions on the U view. Please use the U view throughout this course and in your life. Now let's get on to email, because email is the subject of this week's assignment. And you can get more information about that on the FOL page. It should be up now. I know everyone has probably written hundreds, thousands, millions of emails, but it doesn't mean that you're doing it well. Or even if you're doing it well, you can always be doing something better, right? You never reach perfection. It doesn't exist. So here are the do's and don'ts of communicating with email. What is email? it's become kind of a disposable medium. It's so easy to shoot one off without thought, without editing, without thinking, do I need to send this? People just send them off left, right, and center. I used to work with someone who would reply to every message that I sent with thank you, thank you. And I'm getting hundreds of emails a day. I don't need another email in my inbox every time I send something to you. So don't treat this as a disposable snotty tissue and just shoot them off into the trash. You want to have a purpose. You want to have understand your audience, be clear, be concise. And by the way, this applies not just to sending email to your peers, but if you send an email to your boss that's not thought out, that's flawed in some way, that's rushed, that's like, why am I getting this? It's communicating to that boss that maybe you're not the right person for the job. So it matters. What's the purpose of email? Basically, it's three things. Distribute information. So here's how to do this job. Here's a policy at work. Here's an update to this project we're working on. Hey, there's cake in the break room, right? Distribution of information. Or it could be request for information. You need something, or you need some action. You want someone to do something, so you're requesting it via email. Maybe a vacation. Or you're responding to previous correspondence, right? So those are the three purposes of email. Now, what does the structure look like? You maybe haven't thought about this, so let's go into the basics here. You need a subject line. Every email, mandatory subject line. You need to have something that tells a person, do I really need to open this? Presumably you wanted them to open your email. So email subject line should not just be hey or policy or something very short and non-descriptive. We'll get more into that in a second. Then you have an opening. Someone opens your email and the opening is basically the first line or the first paragraph. That should be very strong and clear and direct. Should get to the point almost immediately, unless it's bad news. We'll get to that in another class. And the body is the real meat of the email. It's maybe explaining a problem or a process, and it's the bulk of your email, right? And you always want to end with closing. And I don't mean your signature. I mean, maybe it's a call to action. What do you want someone to do? What steps should they take now? And we follow this format because everyone's busy and they're getting a lot of emails. And you don't have time to waste with very long, poorly crafted emails. Stuff you should already know: subject lines, clear and direct. You don't want them to be very, very long. You don't want them to be too short that you can't even glean what's inside the message. Be direct. We talked earlier about direct format. That means you put the information right up front, the important information. Okay, we'll get into an example in a second. And don't make the reader search for the important information, right? You want it right up front. Be specific, don't be vague. And then use graphical highlights. I'm big on this one, so please do use graphical highlights in this course. What are they? We're talking about not graphics. I don't mean clip art. I don't mean pictures or drawings. I mean graphical highlights are things that take your wall of text, your boring just block of words on the page, and make them look a bit prettier, right? Headings, a title of a book, chapter headings, section headings, those are all graphical highlights. Bullets, I love bullets for lists. If you're trying to list things in a sentence structure, it's not as effective as listing them in bullets usually. That could be numbered or it could be just the round bullets. Italics, bolding, underlining. All those things comprise graphical highlights, okay? So please use them. It just breaks up that wall of text that looks ugly and it's hard to read. So here's my subject for this PowerPoint slide. And by the way, that doesn't mean reply, that means regarding, if you see that in an email. This PowerPoint slide is to tell you about using subject lines in your emails. Very descriptive, right? Great, perfect. As I said, they're mandatory, you need one. It should really give you a quick identification of what's inside the email so people can decide, do I need to open this? They should be clear, concise, and direct. So here's an example of what I mean. A really terrible subject line is meeting. What does that mean? What meeting? What's it about? When is it? Better is, staff meeting rescheduled. Okay, which staff meeting? I don't know. Here we go. Now it's better. Monday staff meeting rescheduled. I might even add to February 10th, whatever it is. Okay. Direct and indirect. We covered this a little bit, I think, but direct messages are what you'll use generally in emails, which means most important information in the first line of your email, right? Not buried somewhere down below that people have to hunt for it. We wouldn't want that because then it's hard to find things. You know, there's many different types of emails here. You don't really need to write that down or memorize that. But we want your emails to be straightforward. Open with the main idea, as long as these things are not sensitive. If you have a bad news thing, you may want to bury this, soften the blow a little bit. That's another lesson. Yeah, we'll get to that. So avoid burying your message or making the reader hunt for the important parts. And let's look at what that means. Here's an indirect or very poor opening. This is to inform you that we must finalize, by the way, this is to inform you. No kidding, we are sending an email to inform, so you can just cut that right out. We must finalize this year's annual operating budget shortly. Over the past few months, blah, 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 blah. I've met, blah, blah. Okay, we therefore request your presence at a meeting on Monday, June 3rd. There's the meat of this email. This is an invitation. We request your presence on this date, right? So to fix this, get rid of all this filler, this too much context, and just be direct. Put the most important thing in the first line. Here's what your email should say instead. Please attend a meeting on Monday, June 3rd, 10 to 11:30 a.m. Blah, 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 to finalize whatever it is. Then you get into context. You don't reverse it and bury your lead here. You don't bury the call to action. This is the most important thing in your email, so put it up front. Use precise and vigorous words. What is vigorous? It means it has energy, it has life, right? You don't want to use boring words. Meeting is a terrible subject line, but budget meeting on Monday and the date, that's better. If you say something like, contact me before the end of the week in your email, it's a little bit vague because who knows when someone's going to open this email. What's the end of the week? Is that Friday? Is it Sunday at midnight? Who knows? Depends on the person, right? But if you say email me by Friday at 3 p.m., that's clear. You can't debate that unless maybe you're in different time zones. So that's better. If you want someone to do something for you, to take action, go fill out this form, send me this document, you need to make that very clear in the closing, right? And maybe in the opening as well, but usually in the closing, because that's the last thing people are going to read. It's the thing they read after usually the top, the first line. So if it's, please submit your report by June 15th so that your data is included before our January planning session, that's great. You're asking someone to do something. It's a call to action. You want it to be the last thing before your signature usually. So back to graphical highlights or graphic highlights, depending on what you want to call them. Here's a bad version. What is this? This is just a block of words, right? Very dense. We call this a wall of text. Remember that term from a few weeks ago? Your eyes glaze over reading big chunky paragraphs, right? If you're reading a novel, it's different. But for business documents, long passages, people go like, oh man, I gotta read this. It's work, right? So instead, you might want to use bullet points, numbered lists, charts, tables. Not a lot of it, but you do want to kind of use it to break up your wall of text. Here's an example of what I mean. We just took what I had before and we broke it into bullets and sub-bullets, and we're using underlining, italics, and bold. Sparingly. Right? You don't want to overdo it because you seem a little too eager. So now this is the same passage basically, but we're now breaking the information into much more digestible form because we've used graphical highlights, which is bullets. Graphical highlights are bullets, headings, italics, bold, underline, basically. Here's a final example of graphic highlighting. Here's the paragraph version, and you know it's a policy for air travel guidelines. Yeah, you could get an email and read it and understand it, but it's much easier to digest it if it looks like this. Here's the graphic highlighting version. Effective immediately are the following air travel guidelines. Boom, 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 boom. Clear, concise, there's white space on the page. It doesn't look daunting to read. It's much more likely that people will understand this than the top one. Okay. Let's do another example. I have, usually this is done in class for 20 minutes, but unfortunately we're not in class together. So I want to crack open now a bad example of an email, and then a fixed example, the good version. And the reason we're doing this is because you have an email assignment this week. So yeah, let's look at the bad version first, and then the good version. I'm going to go over to Microsoft Word. So here are the instructions. And by the way, if you're up for it, and I suggest you do this on your own at home. Maybe, pause the video now, go download this from the FOL. I've got it there, and actually do it. So what's the problem here? The below policy email is wordy, negative, and cluttered. Your task is to rewrite it. Make changes as you see fit, and we'll look at a better example once you've had a chance to do your own revisions. Consider the following points. Tone is terrible. It's wordy and it's negative. The U view, the letters blame written. That's not good. You're not putting yourself in the reader's shoes if you blame them. Instead, try to show employees why changing their ways will benefit them, right? By adhering to the policy. What's wrong with the format? A huge chunk of text is terrible visually, right? This is a block of text. It's a wall. Terrible. By the way, there's a spelling mistake there, so that's another problem. Some errors need to be fixed for professionalism and credibility, for sure. So look, because the format's off, why don't we use some graphical highlighting? Let's do it. So, and by the way, it's 200 words. Can you get it shorter? I hope so. So why don't you try to take a stab at that on your own now? You can just use it, just pause the video and do it now, or go download the document from FOL and try it. Okay, I'll continue in 1 second. All right, so you've had a chance to do that, I hope. If you don't do it, at least look at it. Read the passage and see what I mean about it being terrible, okay? Now let's go look at a fixed version. Aha, wow, automatically you see this is better, right? And I've got my comments in here, so you wouldn't actually have that in your email. We have a to. Okay, so this is this company's name. From is Morgan Yu, Corporate Communications. And the subject is new email policy. It's clear. Could probably be a little bit more specific though. So now we have hello all, as of October 1st, there's a specific date. The company will be instituting a new email policy to protect employee privacy and encourage good business practices. Okay. Hey, what did we do there? We took the U view. We're protecting your privacy and encouraging good business practices so that the business doesn't fold and you're out of a job. So now the main items of the policy are as follows. And hey, we broke it up into bullets, right? I love that. Email is for business only. Email messages may be monitored, so people are not sending illicit stuff. Email attachments must be sent for valid reasons. No personal stuff, no off-topic work. Email should not be used to discuss personnel matters. Personnel, not personal, personnel, as in like human resources, hiring, firing, salaries, all that stuff. So those are the main points, essentially. What is the policy? Here it is. You can refer to this anytime. It's clear and at your fingertips. We're having a great year and exceeding customer expectations. Wonderful, positive. A virus or other mishap could jeopardize all we built together. Yeah, we don't want that to happen. So we ask that all employees take care when sending workplace communications. This is pleasant, it's positive, it's professional, great. Please contact me if you have any questions or need clarification, blah, blah, blah. That's a call to action. So you're asking people to do something. And it's friendly, it's approachable. We're not getting into the weeds here like the previous version, and then you sign it with your name, right? Wonderful. And by the way, the word count here is 124 words, 61% shorter than the original 200, right? So this is a model to follow, right? You've got your assignment coming up, so review this one when you're sending your own email, okay? I think that's it. Let me just check my PowerPoint. Yes, we're at the end, so I'll see you in the next video. Thanks everyone for joining us.